The Daysum Compound. The Initiate. The Daysum started the new world. It began with the leaders of the old world coming together to create a social plan. The creation of the Daysum served to protect the secrets of the electroplasma field. After the hour of chaos, all knowledge of time bending was destroyed to prevent any further damage to the time matrix. In the old world, leaders were accountable to the people. In the new world, the elite leaders created a plan to run the world from the sidelines. There were two goals of the plan: hold all information about the time matrix secret, and keep the people in the central city happy and peaceful. The elite leaders knew most of the secrets of the time matrix and how to control it, but they did not have the ability to enact their plan without the help of the psychic gifts of the adepts. Therefore, it became necessary to initiate these special individuals into the Daysum. Although adepts were allowed to know about time bending and other aspects of the time matrix, they were not given any knowledge more than the minimum necessary to allow them to hold the timeline according to the elite's plan. By keeping the adepts at a lower level of understanding, the elites did not have to worry about their descent. The adepts clearly accepted that the secrets of time bending had to be hidden to prevent their misuse. Of course, anyone who knew the history would have to agree. The damage done to the entire world was common knowledge. Adepts were given an even deeper understanding of just how close the world had come to self-destruction, and so everyone accepted, fully and completely, the importance of holding secret this knowledge to protect any further disruption of the already fragile space-time plasma. All those initiated into the Daysum started with the taking of a solemn oath of fealty and secrecy. The three tenets of initiation were: 1. To uphold the truth. 2. To sustain the master timeline, and 3. To never speak a word of the Daysum. The third vow was a carryover from earlier days when the Order of the Daysum hadn't created the domed city yet. Today it was no longer an issue because no one ever left the compound. There were times, however, when a new member would be recruited from outside the city. This was one of those times. When a new adept entered the Daysum, they had to be initiated. For the first several months, they had to be monitored and programmed into the ways of the Daysum. It had been several years since there had been any new members admitted, but the adepts were always watching the matrix in the central city for gifted children. This new recruit was older, but the measurements were so significant they had made the decision to bring him in. There was some excitement that this new member could help strengthen the master timeline, which had of late been showing drift from its ideal course. Helene was responsible for guiding new members through the initiation process and early training. She herself was a recruit from the central city, and had gone through the training herself at the age of 10. Xavier, the new recruit, was already 21. But Xavier had a plasma interference level over even the greatest adepts, and his individual magnetic field extended beyond the edges of their standard biofield measuring tools. Helene brought Xavier to the timeline viewing chambers. She sat in one of the two copper reclining chairs and invited Xavier to sit in the other. During time viewing, Helene entered a trance, but her mind was not asleep. She moved into a heightened state of consciousness. Leaning back, she pulled an array of electrodes from the back headrest and wrapped them around her head.
This is very simple,
she said.
You only need to wrap the cap around your head, like this.
She unwrapped and rewrapped the electrodes, and sat back.
Then, just lean back and watch the monitor.
Helene watched as Xavier followed her instructions to the T.
The monitor on the left will show you my brain and heart wave coherence, and the one on the right is connected to you. See if you can make yours match mine.
Helene pointed to her monitor, showing the rhythm of her heart and brain, indicating how they were synchronized.
Now, you try to make yours do the same.
She started to breathe deeply. She rolled her eyes up towards the center of her forehead, and focused on the point of light that emerged. This light came from within her, it was her consciousness point. On the monitor connected to her chair, the brain waves synchronized, first becoming strong, slow waves and then increasing steadily until they reached the gamma wave state. Her heart monitor was in perfect synchrony with the brain waves.
Now, Xavier,
She said in a slow and steady voice.
you have a powerful field of energy within you, it is connected to the entire electroplasma field. In order to tap into this field, you want to gather all of the energy flowing through you and concentrate it into your third eye. Your conscious intention is capable of doing this.
Helene started looking at Xavier's monitor, she could see the coherent waves starting to form.
Very good, Xavier. Gather up all of the energy throughout your body, and you can even draw on energy in the area surrounding you.
As she watched the monitor, the signal strength increased.
Perfect!
She said. They continued with these exercises for some time, and then took a break.
So when will we start the actual timeline travel?
Xavier asked.
I want you to build your capacity to hold energy first.
Helene replied.
I think that with the previous recruits, the reason they never developed the capacity to hold more than one timeline is that they had already been trained in the standard method, and this became such an automatic default that they did not have the capacity to withhold the energy and let it build. The secret of letting the energy build up will lead to the expansion of consciousness such that instead of following a single line, it is possible for you to step out of the framework altogether and see the entire matrix. For me, it is like this.
Helene began to describe the process to Xavier.
When I start my travel, I first rise out of my body and enter an empty room. In this room, I can see multiple tunnels in all directions around me. To enter a tunnel, which is the equivalent of choosing one timeline, I only need to direct my attention towards it. It is like reaching out your hand and grabbing hold of something, but instead of with the hand, you use the mind's eye. The tunnel has along its walls all the future events that will come to pass in that timeline. There are many splits in the tunnel based on critical choices. Not all events lead to splits, and if you train the mind, you can see which choices rejoin the main tunnel and which cause permanent splits. The tunnel can become so thin during this process that it can be possible to lose it. The solution to holding multiple timelines is to pop outside of the tunnel and to see them as strings. In this way, it is possible to see how all of the splits are connected. You can see the strings from the God view. Following the string down the line, I can see splits and view multiple futures.
Xavier was riveted. Helene felt his excitement and enthusiasm. She knew this would serve his timeline viewing. Helene handed Xavier the introductory manual.
Go ahead and acquaint yourself with the master timeline purpose. This is our creed. Listen and give your audio consent at the end by saying, I accept.
Xavier took the earphones and listened to the recording. The recording started and Xavier sat back and listened intently.
On creating alignment with the ideal master line. Timeline viewing is an art and a science. It requires the expansion of consciousness inside and outside of the time matrix. The future is not set or predestined. It is dynamic and dependent on the choices made by each member of the social order. Many choices can lead towards the same outcome. The primary goal of the day sum is to create alignment of the critical choice points with the master line. The master line is the highest expression of existence for all living members of the social order. This will lead to the most peaceful outcome. It was designed by the founding adepts to reduce the pain and suffering of all people. If you accept your role as holder of the master timeline, you will be formally initiated into the day sum and become a compound member for life, with the role of energy adept. This is an honor and the privilege not to be forsaken, at the penalty of death. If you accept this role and conditions, speak the words I accept now.
I accept.
Xavier said out loud. With this, Helene helped him out of his seat.
That is enough for today, you did very well. I look forward to working with you.
Helene led Xavier to the living wing of the compound. From there she went back to her room to rest. These exercises took a toll on her, especially in her condition. She had just found out that she was officially pregnant.